Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am Courtney Anderson. This is episode 230. Episode 230 of this program. And we have a show today that is part of our Help Situation Spotlight series. And that, of course, is our series where we shine a spotlight on a certain situation that you, a community member, shares. So I do always mention come by CourtneyAnderson.com. That is our central website. We have show pages for every single one of our 230 episodes. You can go to the individual microsite within that massive library of content on CourtneyAnderson.com, and you'll have the opportunity to see the show notes. You'll have the opportunity to see links to other content. Also, we're going through and we're adding articles, blog entries. If there's going to be a workshop, a seminar, or a speech that on a topic that's similar or the same, if you have an idea, there are so many things that we are doing to continue to share content with you. Or over the 700 URL range at this point. This is a large website, and it's intended to be, again, this ongoing repository of information, of support, of tools for you to surpass your goals. And so when you come to CourtneyAnderson.com, tell me what's on your mind, because that's where these shows come from. Everything in the Help Situation Spotlight series, it comes from you, a community member. Many times it's a community member who shares something, and then I realize, wait a minute, that's something I was also thinking about or worried about or concerned about. So let's keep that dialogue going. And again, this is something unusual, right? That's a large site. That's a lot of content, and that's because this is not anything that's of a transitory nature. This is a relationship. We're partnering and working together to share knowledge and to build the structure and to implement and execute the strategy that you need to ensure that your life is more than you set for yourself. That's why we talk about surpassing our goals. We don't want to meet them, right? We want to surpass them. And then we want to have a plan for what do we do after we surpass them. So our show today is one of those show topics that, oh my goodness, I look at the show lineup and I think, oh, that topic sounds a little sad. Do we really want to spend a show on something like this? Is this the right kind of energy for what we do? I mean, we are proactive people. We are pragmatists. We are all about passion, right? All right. The taglines I've had on a lot of my marketing for about the last 15 or so years in consulting and in the speaking industry has been passionate, pragmatic, problem solver. One, there's a lot of alliteration there, but those are all really accurate, I believe, about me individually, right? When I'm excited about something, I'm excited. I'm passionate. Sometimes when I talk to people that I'm meeting, for the first time, I've just sort of been familiar with some of my work. I think they expect that I'm like that about everything. No, I'm only passionate about a few things at a time. I'm not, at the market buying, vegetables and I'm, fired up, let's do it. Well, no, right? Like I'm just buying stuff. And I'm also an introvert, right? And quite shy. So the passion is because I love knowledge and I love this life. I love the opportunity to be alive and to share and to learn and to have adventures and joy and all those things. So I'm pragmatic because I'm always asking about the outcome, right? Like, did it work? That really is important to me. That's sort of the logical, almost engineering side of me. I really am sort of, my personality is structured that way. Okay, it's great that was how you felt, but let's also talk about what happened. What was the outcome, right? Did it work? And I'm a problem solver. Again, my profession as a lawyer, as a professor, as a consultant, I solve people's problems, right? That's the job. So, and either proactively or reactively. So the show, like I said today, I was a little concerned. Is this the kind of topic? Is this, moving us where we need to be? And the answer, I believe, obviously, because we're doing it, is yes. So what's the show topic? The show topic today for episode 230 is, it is a holiday, and I am all alone. It is a holiday, and I am all alone. All right, so as you can see, that's sort of why I thought, but here's the reality. This is actually something that is uh, much more sophisticated than it may seem on the surface. And let's dive into this. As I said, this is more sophisticated than it may seem because I was reading an article. At the time of recording this, it actually is end of the year, and so it's multiple holiday time in almost all of the world, right? We move toward everything, and then at the culmination of this, we get to sort of the Happy New Year in terms of the January 1 date, and we've got our global celebrations and all of that. So, and before that, and right, in that period, uh, November, December, January, it's holiday season. Okay. And then, of course, in addition to our sort of cultural large shared holidays, then people have their own individual holidays, right? So it's my birthday, right? It's a special day. Okay. So here we are, and I was reading an article the other day, and it was saying something like, okay, it's a holiday, and they were talking about the Thanksgiving. So North America and in the U.S., Thanksgiving, end of November, and the idea of that holiday is, and I'm not getting into the historical issues, which are very important because it's just not the purpose of the show, but in general, the sort of real life cultural expectation is people get together and they eat turkey, and then they also watch sporting events, and then they go shopping. This is the U.S. version of this, and so the shopping part, so the Thanksgiving is on Thursday, and then they have parades, and there's a whole bunch of sort of cultural expressions of the holiday that sort of go along with this. And then Friday, the day after that, which is Friday, the term has been for years now that it's called Black Friday. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not confirmed, so I'm not going to go into an explanation of that definition. But anyway, so they eat on Thanksgiving. You eat, and you often either play sporting events or you watch sporting events, and you ideally do this with the most idealized version of the perfect family you can imagine, right? So your loving children and grandchildren, your loving spouse, your loving parents and grandparents, and it's just love and beauty, and they have a ton of television marketing, because obviously, as I said, the next day on Friday, this thing they call Black Friday, people then go, the idea I think is that you're going to go buy gifts for all these wonderful loved ones that you just, been celebrating, and you give thanks, right? That's the idea. Like, I'm giving thanks. I'm thankful that I have food. I'm thankful that I have this wonderful grandchild and this wonderful grandparent, and I'm thankful for my loving spouse and all this kind of good stuff. And then you are gearing up because in the U.S., the shopping thing is amazing. They will televise on the local news. They will literally send a news crew to go to like just a regular store that's open all the other time. Like, it's not like it's only open on this one Friday after Thanksgiving. It's open all the other rest of the year, the regular hours. But they open longer hours on this Friday, and people will go out and at night or like or at midnight, and they'll camp out so that they can be at the front of the line, right? Like first come first serve. So they'll physically just go sit and like on a sidewalk outside a store that's there all the time, but because they're going to have special deals. So there's a massive marketing, right, that tells consumers, and it's everywhere. It's on the radio, it's on television, on the internet, it's everywhere. I'm sure soon they'll, be on text messaging. It'll probably be, on your wearable computer. I mean, it's everywhere, reminding you of all these super awesome specials, and they do. I mean, they'll have so something you may have wanted, right? You may think, oh, I really wanted this thing, and there it is, for 70% off, right? There's incredible deal lures you in, but the catch is there are only a few of these deals. Right, so it'll be like quantities limited. So part of the reason people go out and go out at night, and I live somewhere it's normally pretty, the weather's pretty nice, but it could be cold. Some places it's like really cold. It's it's our winter in the northern hemisphere, and it doesn't matter. They go out in cold, and they sit and they wait because they want to be first in line, so they get a chance to buy that special thing at that incredible price. You never see that price, right? In theory. And then it's exciting. And the news crew, they have the news media go out and film people like sitting outside or camping Sometimes I'll bring like a sleeping bag. It looks like I've literally actually never done this, so this is all from what I've seen the media coverage. Um, and they ask them like, how long have you been here, and what is it that you really are, that's so important to you that it's worth it to, kind of wait out for a couple of hours, or and they'll tell them, oh, that one special thing. And often it's something that's really special. It's a special toy for their child. It's a special gift for their, you know, spouse. It's something really special to them. And so this is sort of what happens. So it's holiday time, right? And whether it's somebody, and what tends to happen, especially in these sort of shared cultural holidays, because your individual holidays are a little different. So maybe it's your holiday, it's your anniversary of beating, some disease, or your anniversary of your marriage, or it's your birthday. Those aren't culturally universal. So it's not like, you're seeing advertising everywhere you go and everybody's talking about it, and there's all this pressures on you, right? It's more individualized. So you get to kind of make your own definition of what was a good birthday, what was a good anniversary celebration, or whatever. With these other sort of larger cultural events, there is, and I'm like I said, I see and hear what we all do in our cultures around the world, and it puts pressure on you because you start to feel like, well, the expectation is this. So specifically, I'm using an easy one, this idea of Thanksgiving, which is literally like you get together and you eat with your family and loved ones, and then you are thankful. That sounds, not very complicated. And like I said, a lot of the marketing pieces that you'll see show this. It's a very idealized and sort of the almost perfect version of it. Like I said, it's the person and all their grandchildren and great grandparents, and everybody's loving and sweet and kind and happy, and sharing and laughing and hugging, and it's just great, right? And then they're eating, and they're just having such a wonderful time. And for many people, that's exactly what it is. For many people, that marketing totally matches their life, and it's wonderful, and they're excited, and they say, this is exactly what we do, right? My great uncle makes that wonderful meal he always does, and then my sister sings a great song, and we're all so happy, and it's beautiful, and that's wonderful. Those people wouldn't really understand our show topic, right? Which is it's a holiday and I'm all alone. So for the people who the marketing message matches the real life, then this isn't the show for them. Yet, the marketing messages are really important, because that's why all of a sudden this idea of, quote, I'm all alone means something. So if you said, oh, it's the anniversary of when I overcame, a disability, my disease, right? Like, there's really not expectations of how you celebrate that. So a lot of people wouldn't say, it's the anniversary of, when I became cancer free, and now I have all this depression and anxiety because I'm not celebrating it the right way. There isn't really anything out there telling you how to do it, right? These holidays, and there's a lot of them, right? So I'm picking one, but there's a whole bunch of holidays, and any of the holidays that put these expectations that are reinforced with an incredible amount of ubiquitous messaging, then it puts somebody who doesn't have congruency, like their life doesn't match what you see depicted in these pieces. Whether it's, I'm using marketing because that's the most common, but of course there's all kind of other stuff. There's music. I love holiday songs, right? So there's holiday songs about all different types of holidays and people singing about how wonderful it is. There's songs about going to grandma's house and how wonderful it is. There are movies. Oh my goodness. There's some movies where it's just, there's almost an entire genre of this, right? Of the holiday film and the love and how wonderful it is. And so there's, there are cartoons, there's just everything. And again, for the person who doesn't have that experience that matches up. So if there's a song about going to grandma's house and how wonderful it is, and then somebody's thinking, oh my goodness, that song, now I'm sad, right? Because I don't have a grandmother. Right? If I never knew who that person was, maybe I was brought up in foster care, and I don't even know who my biological grandmother was or is. That makes people sad. Or some people say, oh, I knew my grandmother. She was wonderful. I did love her. It was wonderful, but she's no longer alive. Now I'm sad. For other people, it may be, oh my goodness, my grandmother was not an awesome person. Some people may be in a situation, maybe their grandmother was abusive. Maybe their grandmother was, um, you know, a source of a lot of trauma and pain. So then when you see all of these messages, it makes people feel even more removed. And then we get into that cycle of that somebody's not doing what they're supposed to, right? Because all this doesn't fit them. And one of the core challenges is this idea of being, quote, alone. And as I was saying, I read a media piece the other day, and it was about holiday, and it was talking specifically about the Thanksgiving in the U.S., and it was saying, and it was something like, okay, not with family this year, and then it literally had tips, I think that, and they were things like, why don't you call some of your family? Why don't you, make a plan to, video conference with your family, and I read that and I thought, well, you're sort of missing the point, right? Somebody wouldn't say it's a holiday and I'm all alone if they actually weren't alone. If it was just sort of a thing of like, oh, my work schedule is really crazy and because of work, I'm not going to be able to travel to visit my family, then that's not I'm all alone necessarily. If they had the family to call, then I doubt they'd feel that they were all alone. Like I said, they may have a work situation, they may have a health situation, or somebody else may have a health situation where they're not going to be able to spend the time with them. They may not have the budget right now to visit, but that doesn't mean that they don't have anybody to be with. It just, so I got a little incensed, right? Like I get upset when I'll read something in a piece, and it's like, oh, like the headline is like that, right? Like, oh, alone the holiday, and then it's like, call your family. Or I'll read a piece and it's like, oh, having financial problems, can't pay your bills, and then it'll say something like, borrow money from your family. And I think, like, what? Really? Because look, if you had family, then you wouldn't feel all alone. You might say to people, oh yeah, I'm a little sad because everyone's going to be at my sister's house, and I'm not going to be able to join because of work or health or my budget or something else. And okay, but that's not I'm all alone, right? That's, I have that option, but for whatever reasons I choose not to, or I'm not able to comfortably do it. That's not the same thing. As I said, my analogy, when I read the article about finances and it tells somebody to borrow money from family, look, if you had somebody to borrow money from, you wouldn't be stressed about finances. I mean, it's just so illogical and offensive. So, as I said, this is a more sophisticated issue because what I'm talking about is a whole bunch of things, right? I'm talking about expectations for the holidays that are set externally by the culture, by the marketing, by songs, by media, that put people in the situation where they feel like if my life isn't like that, something's wrong, right? The other thing that you'll see when you go to the show notes, and of course, CourtneyAnderson.com, you'll find our repository of resources, and everything's organized. So when you go to CourtneyAnderson.com, you can either use the URL for the show itself, which is embedded in the show notes wherever you found the program. Or you can just go to CourtneyAnderson.com, put it in our little search box, episode 230, or you can go to the talk show section and then go to the series Help Situation Spotlight, and then you'll see a list of all the Help Situation Spotlight shows, and click on this one. I mean, there's so many ways to get here. But I have my stone of solutions, right? So a stone unit of measurement, 14 pounds using the US is one stone. So I have 14 points that I put together into a stone of solutions. And one of the things you'll see is this idea that we have to ask ourselves, where am I getting this expectation from? Right? So if I feel like I'm doing something that's not right, then how do I know it's not right? How do I know what's right and what's wrong? Where's that coming from? Sometimes it'll come internally, right? Like I may have a way of, putting the pillow on my bed. And in my mind, if the pillow's not exactly that way, then it's wrong. But I made that up. Or it may be that I put the pillow that way, and that's because it's what I saw in a magazine from my favorite fashion model, and I just love that fashion model, so I just won't do anything that I think the fashion model wouldn't want me to do with my pillows. Or it could be something that's what my sister-in-law told me. It doesn't necessarily matter the source, other than whether it's internal or external. Because if it's external, then I have a whole bunch of questions I need to ask about: is this credible? All the types of things we do in our Myth Warrior series to try to figure out, is this something I need to integrate into my life? Does it matter that the pillow's like this? Or is it something where when we investigate, we realize, yeah, this is actually external, but it is something I do need to integrate into my life. This is something that's going to make my life better, right? So if it's internal, then you have total control over it. right? Then you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What does it matter? And that's what this whole idea of being alone. So one of the things on the Stone of Solutions on the show page is I put some statistics. And this is looking from a global perspective of single solo living, right? So single person, solo living. What it sounds like is one person, one human living in that way, right? So it's not somebody who lives, and there's 12 people in their flat, or in their apartment. It's grandma, grandpa, their parents, their siblings, themselves, their nieces and nephews, and they all live there. That's one way. So that's non-solo because there's more than one human. We also have in some parts of the world what we call the nuclear family, and that's the traditional idea in some parts of the world where there are two parents, the biological parents ideally, and their children. So the two parents live in the household with their biological children. And then there's variations on that, right? So the two parents live with their biological children, and maybe their biological children are adults, and now their grandchildren all live there, multi-generational, right? And that's one idea. And then we have this idea, so it's one person, solo, or it's multiple people, and some of the multiple people, they have their own little terms, like the nuclear family. I'm giving you one, right? That's the two parents. And then the children. And so anything that doesn't match these external expectations, people ask questions. So there's a wealth of content, right, where people will ask people who are in spousal type relationships, right? So maybe they're legally married, or maybe they're common law married, and they don't have children. So people will ask, well, why don't they have children, right? Because you're supposed to be, two adults and then children. Why don't you have children? And that's a whole thing, and you can read a ton of really interesting information about that and the demographics of that, right? Then you have people, maybe there's two people, adults, and then they have one child, right? So then that's a whole other thing. People say, why do you only have one child, right? And then you have people will say, well, that one child will be lonely. Here where we're going, right? External expectations. And then people have to defend this. So there's all of this where people feel defensive, right? Like, hey, it's my spouse and I, right? What? We don't have children, or we only quote only have one. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you have people, depending on parts of the world, societies change. So if some people may say, oh, it's myself and my spouse, and we have 9 children. Now in modern times, in many cultures, that's quote too many. So you see, there's so many. It's amazing, right? It's like Goldilocks, right? It's too much. It's not enough. Just trying to get to just right. And all of this is interesting from a sociological, anthropological, political, and economic analysis. But in your life, here's the deal: this impacts how people feel about themselves. So people who, for any measurable reason, right? Maybe they have an honorable work. They're not dishonest. They treat people well. They treat themselves well. They're monitoring and being vigilant about their health and nutrition. They're being of service and kind. They're seeking out adventures and joy in their life. All the things we would think that's an ideal life, right? Then they will feel bad about themselves, because they don't fit into, quote, whatever that society's expectation of the moment is. Because these change, right? Time happens, and fads and everything that people maybe were told, a couple of years ago is different now. But whatever the current sort of expectation externally is, people start to feel bad about themselves, and then they actually get in defensive position saying, well, yeah, it's just myself. I'm a solo living, or it's myself and another adult, and we're in our romantic spousal type relationship, and we don't have any children, or we have one child, quote, only one child. I hate that term. Or we have, quote, too many children, right? And all of this, people have to get defensive, and then they're put in the situation where they're saying, and then other people, well, I don't know how you could have a holiday. I don't see how you could have a holiday, 9 children and all of that. I mean, my gosh, how do you even do it, right? Or you get the other side, and people say, I don't know how do you have a holiday? You only have one child, only one little sad, lonely child. That's sad. And then other people say, I don't know how you have a holiday. It's only you and your spouse. It's by yourselves. It's just sad. And then people will say, how do you have a holiday? It's just you solo living. It's just sad. Okay, look, you see the consistency? My point is, this is not about being alone or being one person. It's about this conflict between these external expectations and your own life, and how people absorb these expectations and then start to turn on themselves and feel like, oh, I've done something, quote, wrong, right? I have too many children. I only have one child. I don't have any children. I might just my spouse, or any variation thereof, right? So it's just me right now. I don't have a spouse, right? Or maybe it's a person, one adult and one child. Uh-oh, right? It's wrong, right? You're supposed to have two adults. Maybe it's two adults and they have, situation, and there's maybe other adults, that are part of their family unit. Oh, what? Uh, you know, um, and it's all kind of variation. So it could be a sibling, an adult sibling. Sometimes the adult siblings just, are comfortable, and they live in a family unit. People say that's weird. And in some parts of the world, though, people say, well, that's normal, right? These are all cultural. Sometimes it's somebody, maybe that was somebody that they, had some sort of a, um, they were really close friends. Sometimes it's somebody that they were in a romantic relationship with. Maybe sometimes people who are legally married are no longer married, but that they're so close and they have such a healthy relationship, they spend holidays together. I know a lot of people like this. And then the sort of the cultural pushback, people, how do you do that? How are you around your ex? And it's like, maybe we had a shared fondness, and we enjoy each other's company. Why not, right? So anything that deviates from this sort of idealized version that we see, again, in number, right? In gender, that's a whole thing. People get all upset, right? In age, that's a whole nother thing. In anything, right? Then we start to feel bad about ourselves, like I'm doing something, quote, wrong. And my argument is, look in the show notes. Are you happy? Sometimes when we talk about this idea of being alone, and one of the things I was saying when I said go to the show notes a few minutes ago, I said there's an international perspective, and I have a link to the Guardian uh, media, and it says this. So this is on the show notes page, right? It says Sweden has more solo dwellers than anywhere else in the world, with 47% of households having one resident, followed by Norway at 40%. In Scandinavian countries, their welfare states protect most citizens from the more difficult aspects of living alone. In Japan, where social life has historically been organized around the family, about 30% of all households have a single dweller, and the rate is far higher in urban areas. The Netherlands and Germany share a greater proportion of one-person households than the UK. And the nations with the fastest growth in one-person households, China, India, and Brazil. This is an international focus on what they were calling solo living, right? And my point is that if you're happy, not every second of every moment of every day, right? We all have bad days. But in general, when you sort of start your day each time anew, when you wake up and get started, whenever that is, wherever you are, how do you feel? If you generally feel pretty good, you look around, yeah, I like this. This is working. Be grateful. Why would you take something that's good and then sprinkle negative, bad all over it for no reason at all because of some messaging externally that you heard? That's not even logical, and it makes no sense. And there are some people, and this is very oversimplified, but there's some people who so disrespect themselves and their own happiness and their own contentment and their own feelings and their own dreams and aspirations that they will intentionally go out and manufacture something that looks like from the outside the ideal version, right? So there are people who literally get married just because they'll say, I can't not be married. And you'll ask them, well, why not? And they'll say, well, because I'm supposed to be, because of my age or because everybody else is or whatever. Oh, okay. And they go and they literally find somebody to marry. I've seen this. I've been to weddings like this. Not that many. And they have the wedding and they achieved the goal, right? Right? Because they were trying to fit that picture. So I'm talking about the U.S. sort of idea, right? Like, it's the two adults and look how, wonderful they are. And then, that's a start, right? Although we just talked about it, if the two adults then don't have any children, then they have that thing to defend against. And if they won't quote only one child, they need to defend against that. And then if they have quote too many children, they need to defend. I mean, like I said, this is ridiculous, but you see where it goes. People go and they manufacture this and say, well, now I'll be happy. And my point is, no, you're not, because you were happy before. And now you just went and got sort of whoever because you claimed you needed a wife or a husband. And now you're miserable because you didn't go out and do the right thing for you. So you have somebody and you say you're unhappy and they're, and they, are mean to you, or they ignore you, or you don't understand them, and it creates all this conflict and misery. And it's like, well, why were you doing this? What you were doing was working before. And you can't win this game. It's fixed. That's what I've been saying. So even if you go and you have the spouse, right? Oh, it's the wrong spouse, right? Look at the people will have something, oh, them, that, and feel it, the age, the color, the size. Look at their size, their shape, their ethnicity, their religion, the way they dress. That's the kind of car they drive. I mean, look, we can go on all day, right? That's their job. I can't believe that. That's who they're with, really? Come on. And then if you have to make decisions for you. And if it's working for you, then you need to be grateful. This needs to be your own holiday of a Thanksgiving that you do every day. I am grateful. When you go down this silly, rigged game of I'm alone, then you've already been disrespectful to yourself. Look, if you want to live with someone else, live with somebody else. Right? If it's a holiday and it's really important to you because you want to be around people, go be around people. I have spent so many wonderful holidays in the last couple of years because I have changed some of my thinking, which is one of the reasons we do these programs is because it helps me. And I've looked at these holidays coming up and I've thought, you know what? I'm feeling this year like I'd like to be with other people. And then I reach out to some of the wonderful people in my life that I intentionally, did you hear that word? Intentionally choose. It could be somebody that's in my neighborhood. It could be somebody in a social group. They could be somebody that's a relative. They could be somebody that's in a romantic relationship. They could be somebody I work with or volunteer with. It doesn't matter. I choose them. And I think to myself ahead of time, well, who would I enjoy spending some time with? And then I reach out to people and I invite them to share the holiday with me. I love entertaining. Or I reach out to people and what are they doing? And sometimes people will invite me to share it with them. And all of these events have turned out fantastically awesome. I had a good time. Why? Because I knew that before then. I chose that. There are other people who will go into these holidays and they will say, well, you're supposed to go be with people, your family. So I guess I'll go see my sister, even though she's physically abusive and beat me up and was arrested last year for that, and stole from me. But I'll just do it because you have to, because it's a holiday. Okay, none of that is logical. It's your life. Now, of course, we're adults. That's why we do these shows for adults. That's the beauty of being an adult. Now, when you're a child, yes. Oh my goodness, holidays, right? As a child, you're a kid. So you can't do anything. When you're a little kid, you can't, when you're the littlest child, you can't do anything, right? So people literally have to carry you because you can't walk. And then as you get more mobile, you can move a little bit, but you're still not able to drive for, many years out. And then even when you're, 6 years old, you're still just, other people have to make all the decisions, right? We're going to your sister's, your aunt's house. We're going to great uncle so-and-so's. We're going to, my friend from when I was in high school. We're going to a restaurant. We're doing nothing, right? Like you don't have any control. You can't drive. You don't have any money. You don't have a job. Nothing. You're a little kid. That's your first part of your life. Having the good fortune to live long enough to become an adult in practice and in law allows you the freedom to choose. You choose. Some people give holidays a bad name, right? And those are usually the ones who say, I can't stand holidays. And you'll say, oh, is it, are you alone? I wouldn't say that because that's a stupid question in my mind, but it's stupid in that that's not a negative, right? I might ask somebody, are you unhappy? To me, that's the real issue. And if someone says, "Yeah, I'm unhappy because I had to be around that, again, that sister that physically beat me up and stole from me, and I really don't want to spend time with her," get it? Then my question's gonna be, why are you doing that? You're an adult. Choose. The thing I love about the idealized marketing messaging and the movies and all of that about holidays is the idea that it's supposed to be happy. That I love because I agree. We talk about in all of our different programs my principle of practicing the joyful art of business, right? Which is this idea that whatever you do with your work, which we call business, you're going to make it individual because it's you, so it's art, and you're going to pursue joy, and you're going to monitor and make sure you're not in a situation where you're like, "Oh, I'm miserable," because then it's not worth it. It's the same thing with these holidays. What are you doing? If you're unhappy, then don't do that thing. So if those relatives or those friends or those neighbors or those people you don't want to do that, then don't do it. If you choose to live solo, that's great. If it works for you, if you're happy. If you're unhappy, then address the unhappiness. And it's not about anything external. If you don't like yourself, then it's not going to be a surprise that you're probably not going to have the most joyful spousal relationship because you already started off not liking you. So how's anybody else? How's there room? How's there room anywhere for there to be love, companionship, joy, true emotional intimacy when you already don't even like yourself? There's nothing to start with. You can't give somebody else something you don't have. So if you are somebody who chooses to live alone, then okay, that's a healthy choice if it works for you. If you're unhappy, then fix what's going on with the unhappiness. And once you fix it by yourself, then you're going to be able to go out and have all kind of wonderful relationships with other people who also have the same healthy relationship with themselves because they're looking for you. Right? We're sort of out there. All these programs we talk about, everything bullying in the workplace and all this kind of stuff. People are out there kind of in life doing a couple of big picture things. The people who do feel good about themselves in life are trying to find other people who feel good about themselves in life because they don't want to be around the people at work or in their personal life who are the miserable people because all the miserable people do is complain and talk about how horrible everything is and self-destructive and negative and they're stuck. Sometimes they're physically stuck. They don't get out in the world, and they just can make a great day horrible. So they want to avoid them. They don't want to work with them, right? So we do all these workplace programs about how to identify and try to work with people and have them understand the behavior that's expected in the workplace, and that they either need to change their behavior, and or they might need to change their work location. It's the same thing in life, outside of work. The people who feel good, pretty decent, they're around other people that feel pretty decent. The problem, though, what you tend to see in societies is because of that, you'll get the clusters of people who feel pretty decent sort of interacting with each other, like, yeah, that's great. And then you have the other people, the people who are unhappy and anxious and frightened and angry and all this kind of stuff, and they're clustered together. And both of these groups just sort of feed each other, right? So you have to force diversity. It's very important. Often through our volunteer service, that's a great opportunity for us. We have to be in a situation where people are just really in a tough place often and be of service to them. And believe it or not, that helps us and it helps them. So, because it's not all sunshine and roses, right? But it's also not all, misery and storm clouds. And the question is not that you're alone. If you don't want to be alone, go be around other people. And I don't want to hear any of these excuses. Well, I could, but, they've passed away. Okay, well, why can't you? Look. You define yourself, and I talk about that in so many different programs, in so many ways, right? It's like that too. You define your holiday. What makes you happy? Some people say, I talked to somebody a couple of years ago, and they came from a large family, I don't know, 7 or 8 siblings or something. And so it was getting, holiday time, and I was asking like, oh, you're going to go visit, all your siblings and other relatives. And they said that they're, kind of an introvert. And so that it drains them. And they said something like, I try not to go to the event where everybody's there because it's a lot of people, right? And it just kind of overloads my circuits, and I'm not happy in that for an extended period of time. So I try to see that I go, visit one relative at a time, and then that way it's not overwhelming for me and I'm happier. Okay, problem solved. That works. You have to take responsibility for yourself. It's your life. Nobody else is in your head. Nobody else is in your heart. Nobody else knows how you feel. If you're lonely, that's a problem. If you're alone, it isn't. Alone, we're all alone at some points. You can be in the same house, in the same room with somebody and be alone and be lonely. You can have solo livers who are never lonely, who feel like, my goodness, I am full of all the interaction I would ever dream of, and I have great relationships with people, and I feel good about myself, and I feel good about other people. Loneliness is not at all anything that any of us should underestimate. It destroys people. I'm lonely as I have unmet needs. I'm not able to communicate with people. I don't feel that I have relationship with people. I don't feel that I exist, that I matter. That's a serious, serious, critical issue that you must address. But people are different. So for some people, it may be that, hey, they have some online communities that they're part of, and then they see people, a couple of times, a month, and it works. That's all that they need. The rest of the time, they're by themselves, doing what they do happily, right? And they have a personality where too much interaction with other people gets them to a point where they're unhappy, right? And they're overloaded and they're stressed out, right? There are other people who can be with people all of the time. Never, literally, even when they use the restroom, right? They're just never alone. They're always with other people, and they still are lonely. You hear that all the time. It's one of the things that amazed me as a lawyer when I practiced law and did family issues. How many people who'd been, married to somebody for, decades, 20, 30, 40 years, and said that they were lonely, just desperately lonely. And you think, how is that even possible? Well, it's possible because just because some physical person is somewhere doesn't mean you have a relationship with them. Even if you have a piece of paper that says you do, doesn't mean you do. Relationship is an investment. They're in your community of caring. Your happiness is their happiness, and vice versa. That's a totally different type of thing. You can have that with all different types of people that come into your life in different types of ways. If you're solo living, I read some of the statistics to say that that's a huge trend globally. If it works for you, then do that. If it doesn't, then don't. I know people who have a very strong financial independence, but they don't like living alone. So they'll get with the roommates just because they like it. It's fun for them. And that's okay. There's some people who love being in marriages, whether they're informal or formal legal marriages, and there are other people who feel stifled and overwhelmed by that, and they'll never be happy in that. And it has nothing to do with the person that's in a relationship with them. It's just how they're oriented to the world. Again, some people like to have a lot of time with themselves. That gives them energy. It makes them happy. They get to putter around and do their ideas and work on stuff, and that makes them happy. And there are other people who are the opposite. They need a lot of stimulation from other people. So let's break this down. It's the holidays. Good. We should be grateful that it's a holiday and that we're alive. Or that we're alive and it's a holiday, however way you want to do it. If the holiday means something to you emotionally in terms of your it's sentimental to you, or reminds you of wonderful things, great. If the holiday makes you think of horrible things, a lot of people, these holidays are markers or memories of bad things, right? A bad marriage, a situation from a family of origin that's not great. They don't ever want to think about that ever again. Okay, good. So make a new memory. I have other people I know in my life. It's holiday time, and you know what they do? They go on a cruise, or they go do a volunteer project in another part of the world, or they stay local, but the whole time they're just busy with their volunteer work. Or sometimes people say, I'm going to take this time where it's quiet at a lot of businesses, and I'm just going to go work on my business stuff because it's quiet and I get a lot done. If it works for you, do it. The only thing that's unhealthy is when people are running away from something. So some people will say, oh yeah, I'm going to go work because they don't want to be at home, because they don't want to be around the people that they're related to or that are coming to their holiday event. That's a problem. And you got to ask yourself at some point, if not today, you got to ask yourself, what am I doing? I get to choose. That's the beauty of being an adult. I get to choose. I don't have to. And if there's some sort of external thing, people, well, you're the one, you're supposed to do this. No, you're not. That's who? Your own ability to have self-care, right? Your emotional state, your physical state is primary. Because if you mentally and physically are not able to function, then nothing's happening. Second to that is your responsibility to other people. Some of them may be relatives. Some of them may be friends. Some of them may be romantic or spouses. Some of them may, they could be whoever. It doesn't matter. But you got to treat them as if they're in that community of caring for hopefully the long haul. You invest in people, you invest time in people, you listen to them, you care, you remember, and it works the other way. That's the emotional intimacy. That's the foundation of any joyful relationship. But if it's gotten to a point where you don't want it, you're trying to avoid people, you're in trouble. And you got to reassess this and start making a plan to change your life so that you're not running away from your life, that you're in your life and you're running towards your goals and your adventures. And like I said, not every day is some fantasy thing, but overall, yeah, you feel pretty good. It's working for you. The cool thing is that we all get to calibrate this. So all this garbage that we hear, people, oh, I can't believe they don't have any kids, or how come it's one parent and one kid, or it's, how come you only have, uh, again, the one kid, how come you don't have any kids, how come you have too many kids? You don't win. There's no way to ever win this game, right? So don't play. Because what it is other people taking their own unhappiness and their own fear and their own anxiety, and they're projecting it onto you. The most powerful thing you can do is say to yourself, this is working for me. I like this life. And if in your own way you let other people know, people say, hey, aren't you coming over to, your cousin's event for the holiday? And you say, no, I really don't want to do that. Then don't do it. You don't have to, quote unquote, do things. Now, you should do things that are reciprocal to people in your community of caring. Because remember, their happiness is your happiness. It works both ways. And so if you treat people poorly, right? If you just ignore them, if you don't follow up with them, if you don't invest time in with them, then that's going to be what happens to you too, because that's fair. On the other hand, you're not in relationships with people in your community of caring where there's abuse, neglect, the silent treatment, all the kind of stuff that goes on that is so destructive to people, that ruins a good thing. Holidays are a good thing. It's a time to just think about something. And it could be, sometimes they're religious, sometimes they're cultural, sometimes they're individual, sometimes they're, whatever. But it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Plus, hey, even if you have totally, agnostic to the holiday itself, you're alive, and that means that that's a good thing itself. So there. You just got to craft for yourself what works. Some people say it's the holidays. I'm so excited. I'm going to my ski place. I go skiing when it's holiday time, and I have a blast, and I'm happy. Other people say I go to the beach. Some people say I go nowhere. I go to my own place, and I'm in my happy place, my bedroom, and I'm doing what I do. I do my stuff on I do arts and crafts. I read good books. Whatever is your thing, do your thing, and celebrate that. That's a wonderful opportunity. We must always remember there's so many people just struggling for the basics, water and nutrition. And look at us. What a privileged position to be able to even ponder your holiday plans. I mean, really, that's a privileged person's position. And we need to remember that when we get into the self-pity spirals, right? The self-pity spiral is, oh, I would be happy, but everybody else has whatever fantasy thing you're imagining they have. And then let's be very honest, we know that the fantasy thing is what gets us all in trouble. Everybody. If you know somebody that's happy, that's the person you need to talk to. And just ask them. You always seem, hey, like things are going all right for you. How did you get to that place in life? And then listen. The people who are unhappy, those people, the holiday thing, a lot of movies, or especially more modern movies, or will show that, the holiday, and then, everyone thinks the family's so great, and they have the right number of adults, and they have the right gender, and the right size, and the right age, and the right background, and right religion, and the right number of kids, and the right house, and the right neighborhood, with all the right food, and the right plates, and all this stuff, all this garbagey stuff that people believe in, and then the behind closed doors, right, it's a real disaster. And you go to the holiday, and people see that, and it's just awful. And my point is, then, look, people who are unhappy, right? And there's nothing to envy there. It's just something that we need to empathize with, and hopefully at some point, if we can help people find a path that works for them to get them out of that unhappiness. And what you and I need to do is pursue that for ourselves. What's working for me? If you're super excited to go to your family and there's going to be 47 people and you love this, then go do that. Obviously, again, this wouldn't really be the show for you. If you dread this, and I hear that a lot from people, not a lot actually, to be very fair, not a lot in my personal life. Actually, not really at all in my personal life, but sometimes I might talk to somebody in passing, like, out of the market or something. And I dread the holidays. Then what are you doing that you're dreading? Then stop doing that thing. If you like the part where you get to cook, but you don't want to clean up, then enlist some help. You make your own holiday tradition and do you. And then again, this topic is a happy topic. It's a holiday. That's a good thing. Being, quote, all alone, that doesn't even make any sense. Again, you can be with someone and be lonely, and you can be by yourself and not be lonely. But you have to calibrate what works for you. You have to choose. Who do you choose to spend time with? And what do you want to do? And plan ahead. If you know you're the kind of person that you want to be with people as much as you can, then you need to go around and be around people who want to hang with you and do that. You don't want to be around people who are going to be, saying, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go, go to bed now." And it's only been a little, while for you, and then you'll feel lonely. So you got to be around, find some people who are going to want to have as much time and do the type of things you want to do. Get a diversity of experiences. Sometimes on a holiday you might go, one part of the day with one group or one person, another part of the day do something else. Stretch it out. But don't get mad at other people. It's your special day just by virtue of being alive. So make it work for you. And tell other people very nicely, "Hey, I'm happy to do this. Nope, I'm not going to be able to do that part." And then you know what? It's a win-win. One of the saddest things you'll ever hear from people in these types of holiday situations is somebody who'll lament, and say, "I just wanted everybody to be happy." Well, no, they're not going to be happy if it's a group of people that there's a lot of, latent hostility and, residual anger and resentment and all that. You're not going to get a happy group because, if the people don't come in happy, he's not going to be happy. That's why I said, as adults, we do kind of go out and we self-segregate. The people who sort of feel life's kind of all right or could head in a good direction, that group kind of hangs out together. And then the other group who's like, life is horrible, it's the worst thing ever, they hang out together. And when you mix them, like I said, it's good for us, right? Especially when we're of service to people. But when you put them in these holiday things, then it doesn't go well usually. Because the people who are unhappy will complain about everything. "Oh, this is the food. Oh, I thought we were going to have another type of food. Oh, okay. This is who cooked it. Oh, well, I've had better." Like they can just, the miserable people can make misery out of anything. It could be literally the most awesome thing in the history of the universe. They'll still complain. So the deal is, then why are you around them on your special holiday? And we did a show, check that show out. We looked at that concept, right? Whether or not you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. We talked about this. You need to go back and revisit that and some of the other types of shows that we address some of these issues about you're making your own decisions. You decide. It's your life. It's your holiday. You do you. Being alone is, we're all alone at some points. If it's working for you, then good. Have your special day. Enjoy it and celebrate. If you're lonely, I don't care if you're married and have 9 kids or you are solo liver and you're lonely, the loneliness is the problem. And you got to address that because it is so destructive for humans. We must not be lonely. We've got to invest in ourselves and build other relationships. Again, whether they're in person, whether they're virtually, I don't care what it is. People can find ways to make it work for you. But you got to, if that's your thing, it makes you happy, do your thing. But if it's not making you happy and you're miserable, then stop doing it. The greatest role model you'll ever be for anybody else is to be content. Other people will see that, like I said, and they'll come to you at some point and say, "You seem so content. How's that working? How'd you do that?" And then tell them. I sat around, I thought about what type of days I like, what type of events make me happy, and then I went and I did that stuff. And the stuff I didn't want to do, I don't do it. We all have to make some compromises in life, right? And we all have to understand in relationships, remember, community of caring, your happiness is their happiness and their happiness is your happiness. So yeah, there's always an element of, it may not be your favorite thing, but because that's somebody in your community of caring, then that's where we're going to go ahead and do this for a little bit. Then that's fine. It may be the 50,000th time you've heard that story, but that's all right because they're in your community of caring. So let's hear it 50,001 times. That's the beauty of it because they're doing the same thing to you. Remember that, right? For everybody that you could say, "Oh, that again," there's somebody saying that about you, but that's okay. You don't know it though because they treat you with such respect because you're in the community of caring, and that's what you're going to do for them. And if you really feel like you're stuck and you can't figure it out, then put it on a piece of paper or a tablet, I don't care how. But make a list. Add up all the good positive things and all the negative things and look and see which list is taller. And that'll give you a start of what direction you need to move in. But you're an adult. You're not a little child. You're not an infant where you can't walk and you can't crawl and you just somebody has to carry you. You're an adult. And even if you're not able to walk for whatever reason, you're an adult, so you have the legal ability. So uh, you can say no. That's the greatest gift, right? Of being an adult. You get to exercise the decisions. If you don't want to do that, tell people, not this year. If you want to do that, then say, hey, yeah. If it makes you happy, then have those people over. If those people make you sad and you're just thinking about it, your stomach hurts and you dread it, then don't do it. Or do it differently, right? To say, oh, I'm going to only come for a little bit and oh, I've got some other things to get to. They won't even really notice. You have to craft your life. The have to part is a responsibility, but it's also awesome because it's like customized for you. You do your thing. So as I said, I'm recording this episode around a holiday time. It's always some holiday somewhere, right? So no matter what holidays that you are experiencing, uh, I'm very happy that you took the time to join me in the program, and I'm delighted that you have the holiday. That's a good thing. Just make it more awesome. Just customize it. And maybe you can't do it immediately, right? Maybe this holiday it's right now. That's all right. But you have a plan now for next time, right? Start thinking about what makes you happy and do those things. You deserve those moments of contentment. You are a good person. The world is better for you being in it. I am grateful that you're here. You're going to have, if not this holiday, because we're committing to a program going forward in a strategy, you're going to have some awesome holidays because they're going to work for you. And as I said, I personally have been through this, and I have to say the last couple of big major holidays, they've been really good because I had a plan. And I execute the plan. And if it works for you, it works. Remember, all that other stuff is a rigged game. No children, only one child, too many children. Those children are too many years apart. Those children are too close in age. That's rigged. Don't play. Don't play. It's rigged. We know that. So go do your happiness. Let those other people in that misery thing go spread that misery somewhere else. But they're not going to do it with you and I because we know what they're doing, playing rigged game. We don't do that. We get out there in life. And we do the game of life. And it's not rigged. So happy holidays. Thank you.